Those who die bravely do not die. I remember that in the army we all had a common goal. I tried, but a spirit of sacrifice existed in the others as well. Regardless of whether or not they believed in the afterlife, why should he be killed? He is a family man, they would say, and they would volunteer for a dangerous mission. The sacrifice they made had greater value than the sacrifice made by a believer. The faithful person believes in divine justice and divine recompense, whereas the others do not know their sacrifice will not be in vain and will have its recompense in the afterlife. During the occupation, back then with Constantine Davakis, the Italians had arrested young officers, put them in a boat and sank it. Later, they gathered the first people they found and tortured them to reveal who had weapons. What a great sacrifice made by worldly people. In Konica, near our home, where they have now built the church of Saint Cosmas Aitolos, there used to be a mosque. They were locked up in the mosque and severely beaten throughout the night with whips and wires and other instruments of torture which tore their skin. To muffle the cries of the prisoners, their captors sang or played music. This is where the saying came from, to be beaten to music. They even hung them upside down until the blood started oozing from their mouths. But they did not speak throughout these tortures, for they thought, if we talk and reveal who has weapons, for they knew who did have some weapons, they will beat all the others to get them to confess. This is why the first group said, let us die and prove to them that the others don't have any weapons. But there were some who for a few pounds of flour would say so and so has a couple of weapons. People were dying of hunger and would readily betray others. A battalion made up of Italian soldiers who were illegitimate children and had grown to be particularly cruel would then release all their anger. They'd take little children, place them naked on hot metal machines, step on them so they'd burn so that their parents might reveal where the weapons were hidden. We have no weapons, we have no weapons, the older people shouted, but the Italians continued to torture and burn their children. What I'm trying to say is that these more or less worldly people were willing to die so the others would not be beaten or even killed. This way they saved many lives. That's how our nation was upheld in those difficult times, by a handful of brave men. Those who die bravely do not die. Without heroism, nothing can be done. And now that a believer is also brave, look at poor Macrianus, what he suffered and at what period of time. Geronda. Janus Macrianus wrote once, my eyes smoked. Yes, his eyes did smoke, and they looked like they had vapors coming out of them from all the intensity and agony he felt. He found himself in that situation, and out of pain and love, he constantly sacrificed himself. He did not think of himself or consider his own interests, and he had no fear of being killed when he was struggling for his country. Janus Macrianus experienced spiritual conditions. If he were to become a monk, I believe that he would not have differed much from Saint Anthony. He used to do 3,000 prostrations while his body still suffered from war injuries and wounds. During his devotions his wounds would open, and his intestines would come out and he would push them back in. 3 of my prostrations equal 1 of his. He would wet the floor with his tears. If we were in his place, we would go to the hospital to be cared for by others, and these worldly people will be our judges.